Now let's go behind the rock screen.
You're welcome to come on in. We'll bring out the moonshine and start telling lies and calling up the women. But no talk about racing. Come on.
Race Director at Atomic Speedway. Dave, thanks for coming on.
No problem. Appreciate you having me.
I want to start out first because you and I have kind of conversed back and forth, and I pay attention to your social media. You make the haul to Atomic from Canton. What is a week like for you?
Oh, man. So, yeah, it is a long haul from Canton. It's 196 miles one way. So, you know, every race we have at Atomic, it's a 400-mile round trip and just about 6 hours in the vehicle every single time. Typically, you know, what we try to get done during the week to prepare for that, you know, we're creating our schedules, and I try to follow along with social media a lot, you know, Monday through Friday, just kind of see what's happening, if there's anything crazy going on that, you know, we need to know about. Then we go through and we make sure all of our point of sale stuff is right. And my wife, Mandy, also works at track, so she does all the office work. So, you know, just leading up to us getting in the vehicle to leave, we both probably put in, you know, anywhere from 10 to 20 hours just getting prepared for the race night. And then comes Saturday. And when Saturday hits, for me, I'm out of bed at 5:30 a.m. Mandy gets up right in the vehicle at 7. And after a stop for coffee, where it's tracked usually by 10 a.m.
And then you got the rest of the day to go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's, you know, that 10 a.m., you know, that's kind of the clock in time, you know. Once we're there, try to help Mandy get a few things going in the office. Then from there, I'm off up to the tower to get the tower set up. So I'll get all of our timing and scoring stuff, make sure it's working, get everything I need set up. And then I try to do as much as I can for our announcers. So I'll get all the audio checked, get music playing. By the time I'm done with that, you know, that'll carry me up to like 11:30. Once we get to 11:30, then I'll hop over and I'll start going through all of the concession stands, making sure all the point of sales work, because you wouldn't believe technology. Sometimes it doesn't work like you think it do. But that takes usually about a half an hour. Try to make sure all the fryers and everything, if there's a problem, we'll get the fryers up and going. Sometimes I have absolutely no idea what's going on with those. So that turns into a Charlie problem. Then usually about noon or so, try to sit down and drink some water or something, because lately it's just been so blazing hot. You're sweating it out as fast as you're putting it in. Then we'll go back and get the pit tower set up for Jeff. Try to do everything I can to put everybody in a good position, so when they show up, they don't have much to do. They can just show up and do their jobs. So we'll get all the registration stuff set up back at the pit tower, get Jeff Hoagland, you know, the scales out, get his microphone out, get everything set up for him. And that usually carries me up to 1:30 or so. And then once 1:30 hits, it's just starting to put out fires, because we get all of the employees that are starting to come in. So if everything's going well, you know, all the fryers are on and all the technology's working, that's okay, because if it's all working good, then I usually get a call from Charlie that says, hey, I need you in the infield. And then I'm in the water truck, or I'm running the sheep's foot, or, you know, it's just nonstop of things to do. Usually I try to break off of all of that about a half hour before the driver's meeting, to just kind of stop, organize what I have to do for the driver's meeting, kind of get some more fluid in me, because once the races start, I don't have a lot of time then either. Try to take about a half hour to just get my head back together where I need to be. And then we'll go do the driver's meeting. And then typically right after the driver's meeting, all of our registration stuff's done. So we'll start working our way back up to the tower. Even working our way back up to the tower at times is difficult because now we're starting sprint cars. So we're going to start sprint car. I try to hang around back there to make sure enough people know what's coming. Nobody gets hurt because we have some not weird way the cars come off the track, but if you're not paying attention, you can get surprised real quick. And then usually, if we have cars on track at 6, I'm usually try to be in my seat and ready to go about 10 till with lineups and everything ready to go. At that point, my day started. I'm kind of waiting on Charlie to finish up track prep, whatever he's doing with that. And then from that point on, it's just nonstop with the racing aspect of it. And I don't know. I mean, Mandy and I went to Lincoln one time. Scott Gobreck and April, they were gracious enough to have us over, and we just talked about, we kind of want to see how other places do it. And it was funny because we walked in about 2:00 into the tower, and everybody that works in their tower was just sitting there, shooting the breeze, enjoying things. And I'm like, "Oh, you guys aren't going to water the track?" "No, we got people to do that." "Oh, you guys aren't going to go plunger a toilet?" No, there's people to do that. I'm like, oh man, I am living wrong. But anyways, we'll go and we try to keep the show moving, which, with our on-off situation at Atomic, everybody's kind of coming on and going off the track the same way. That's a little bit of a challenge, and it can delay our nights a little bit. I figure we lose about a half hour, 40 minutes of just cars coming off and on the track the way they do it. And then once the checkered flag falls, you would think, oh, okay, your night's kind of done. It's not. It's just another, comma in the night. So then I'll clean up the tower, get everything put away, kind of get all the records back into my folders and pack everything up. And then depending on what kind of help Mandy's had in the office, a lot of times I'll go back and kind of hang around a little bit at the payout line. That way, if I've really made any drivers mad, they get the opportunity to yell at me. Or most of them now are pretty good. When we first started, everybody liked to yell. Wives, girlfriends, drivers, crew chiefs, crew guys that I don't even think were a part of the team, but they were offended by something I did. But I think we got a pretty good rapport now with almost everybody. I think a lot of people thought I wasn't approachable, but if you just come and talk to me, no big deal. Once I kind of know I don't have any problems, then I'll go in with Mandy and we'll count the money for the night that we took in. So, the last race we had 2 weeks ago, I think, ish. I think we left the track at 1:30. In the morning, been up since 5:30. Then I can't remember. We stopped either in Circleville or South Bloomfield, and I got a coffee, and we drove all the way back to Canton. I think I got in bed at 4:30. We had our camper at the track, but it was just to the point where that was kind of uncomfortable. I mean, I'm 46 years old, so that was just uncomfortable. But yeah, that's kind of a day in the life of the race director at Atomic Speedway. You do everything from, your point of sales to unclogging toilets to having the drivers yell at you. Sometimes it's deserved when they yell at you. And I try to admit that when I can. When it's just, somebody needs to vent, I try to let them vent too. That's just all part of the job.
A man of many hats. So I think one of the questions that I've thought about during you pointing out kind of all the stuff that you guys have to go through is, do you feel like that you've reached a point now where you've got things pretty well figured out and pretty well timed out? I know obviously, you've got to wear many hats. You might have to go do this where the week prior you didn't have to do it. But do you think you have the day pretty well figured out and kind of where things need to be before, like you said, people start showing up?
Yeah, I mean, I think Charlie does a good job, and Fred. Fred works at the track all week. Those guys are there every day, and they do a great job of getting things squared away for the most part. By the time I show up, I'm putting out major fires. If we have an internet problem so we have great internet at the track. We've got like a 10 gig fiber line. And so far, Flow twice has come in and pinched the fiber line a little bit. It just dropped our internet completely. So twice we've dealt with that. Those are the kind of things I wind up dealing with during the day. So there really is no timing for that. It's just, hey, this is a problem and we got to get it fixed. But Charlie and Fred, during the week, they're the ones who really make everything successful at the track.
Yeah, I don't catch all of his videos, but I do catch quite a few videos today, actually.
I haven't even seen the ones for today, so
there was discussion
you're up
today.
on me.
Well, so you needed to rain there. I know that.
Yes, badly.
Also, one thing that I actually really like is that you are going to open up grass hillside seats there between 3 and 4 for chairs.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of that. Like, I typically will go to a track and I can sit in the bleachers. I prefer if I get there early enough to go up top because I like to stand. My knees don't like to sit in bleachers for too terribly long, so I'll go up there and stand. But if I can bring a chair in, that's awesome too. So I do like the fact that you guys are opening up the grass hillside seating there in 3 and 4.
Yeah, that's something we've talked about for a while. I think one of the things, and I kind of touched on it, I think one of the things folks don't understand about us at Atomic is I think we're a lot different in how it's run. Charlie has a full-time job and a couple of businesses. I work full-time myself, and I live 3 hours away. So a lot of these things that we want to do, we honestly run out of time. And that grass hillside, I mean, that's been there for 2 years, I think, maybe a little longer. And we've talked about it. And now we're comfortable doing it. As long as nobody gets crazy and decides they want to watch from the chute and starts walking down there, everything will be good. And that should be fun. That should be really entertaining for folks.
Yeah. He mentioned putting up a fence, so I assume it's related to that.
So from where the bleachers end there in turns 3 and 4, there's a fence. Well, from that fence all the way around to the chute where the cars come out, there is no fence. And that hillside's right in that area. So we've got to put up a temporary fence in there just to make sure nobody's back there, that back there behind you, there are a bunch of signs and you can't see anything. So if somebody's walking around back there and a race car goes back there, that spells big problems. And that's not saying somebody won't do it because you can't predict what people are going to do. But yeah, just a little fence, something to kind of delineate, don't go past here.
Yeah. I got to Atomic this year and hope to get back again. And you guys have a pretty cool layout. Walking in, a playground for the kids, which I don't know of anywhere else that has that. I'm sure somebody does, but I don't know of it. A couple different setups where you can get beer. I really like the little shed closer to the pit area for the beer, but there's 2 different locations there. And the concessions is a pretty cool like trailer setup. Just a neat facility there, and the track is really good as well. So I like what you guys are doing there. I like that addition of the hillside seats, and I'm guessing moving forward, you guys will keep adding to the list of improvements there.
Yeah, there's some more stuff in the works. I mean, we've been working on new bleachers since Charlie bought the place, but the bleacher cost is so out of control. I mean, I don't think people understand, when he bought Atomic, we were looking at $100 per seat. And now we're up into like $135 per seat. And Atomic is the kind of facility that, in my opinion and his opinion, you need 7,000 to 8,000 seats. If we were to score a crown jewel late model race, The Dirt Track World Championships has been there many times. You will sell it out. And that's really what those folks are after is, I think the days of a 2,000 seat facility hosting a crown jewel are kind of over with. I think, the money that's in it now, you need that 7,000 to 8,000. And then with the hillside, we could probably pack another 500. And, by the time we sell as many tickets as we can, we're pretty comfortable saying we can get 10,000 people in there. And I think that's pretty much what the facility deserves. But now we're turning around and we're looking at close to $1 million to put up new bleachers. That's a lot for anybody.
Yeah. I can't imagine, I guess the first thing that came to mind for me when you said that was the wood, just the cost in the wood alone. I mean, you're talking about the whole bleacher set, which isn't just the wood.
Yeah, and we're not going small with the wood. We're going full aluminum bleachers with backs on them. We could redo what we have and maybe have a couple $100,000 in it. But again, I think that facility needs more of the Knoxville style seating. Where you have a back to sit on, that just makes the whole experience of being at the track a little more comfortable. And let's be honest, it's hard to get people into any track now for 3 to 4 hours, especially sitting on a wood plank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, if you guys are transitioning and putting in those kind of bleachers, you're right. That's the way to go, but it's not the cheap way to go. It's the way to go for the fans, though.
Yeah.
So you kind of touched on it, and we'll get more in depth here. Racing sounds like a family affair to you. So you said your wife helps there at the track, and understand you got some other folks that help you there as well. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I don't remember what race it was. It might have been last year at our World of Outlaw events. So my dad works for. And my brother works on a modified there that races every week at Atomic. He works for Brian Whiteman. And so one night at Atomic, my dad was working on Danny's car. My brother was there working on Brian's car. My wife, Mandy, and I were working. My daughter, Gracie, was there working with her boyfriend. And then my mom was at the front counter at the office. So there was like 7 or 8 of us. Andrews is floating around there at Atomic. So yeah, it is family, and Gracie doesn't get to come as much anymore. She works for the College of Worcester, so she doesn't get to come. I think right now she's in Orlando doing some college stuff, so she doesn't get to come as much as we'd like. But yeah, it is a lot of fun. At our Outlaw show this year, they were there, and it was a lot of fun to share those experiences of no matter what anybody says of how stressful an Outlaw show is, it is a lot of fun. And to share that with your family, that makes the getting yelled at, the upset fans, somebody's hot dog was a little colder than they liked. That helps make that more fun at the end of the night.
I wonder, you're talking about this, and I guess this question that comes to mind is kind of twofold. So one is, when you're at the track, for me, going to the track, I try to do this stuff, right? But when I go to the track, I might take video or I might take pictures and I might share it. But I'm not personally trying to track people down to talk to them. That's just not what I want to go to the track, and I want to enjoy the racing. I don't want to feel like I'm going there to work. So when you're there working, is there ever a time that you get to step back and kind of take it in? And I can't imagine setting up at the tower and you've got fans in the stands, you've got cars on the track. Is there ever a point, or is it just so chaotic when everything gets going that you can't really take it in?
So there have been a few times, and they're few and far between, that I've actually taken the time to stop and say, and look around and say, we pulled this off. Probably the most memorable one that I have was the 2024 Saturday night Outlaw show on Memorial Weekend. That weekend, those 2-day shows are absolutely a nightmare because my typical Saturday just starts on Friday. And then on Friday night, Charlie and I do track prep until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And then we're right back up at it at 8 o'clock. So that Saturday night, we have a crow's nest up on top of the tower there, and Dirt Vision doesn't use it. So it was wide open. So I did walk up there. And I got up there as they were just starting the 4 wide. And, I've been going to the races since I was 10 years old. So, I'm standing up there and I just watched, and fireworks went off and well, I don't know if we had fireworks that night or not, but I just remember as they were rolling down the backstretch, and when they come out of turn 4, I saw the crowd and I saw how happy and elated people were and cheering and everything that went on. And then, you're hearing Johnny Gibson, and I'm just thinking to myself, I can't believe that some hillbilly from MacArthur, Ohio had a small hand in making all this happen. So when the big series comes in, you do get that opportunity. Like when Lucas is there, Rick and Ashley are doing their thing. They don't need me in the tower in the way. So I do try to sneak out and enjoy it. But they're few and far between.
Yeah, I can imagine, but I'm glad that you at least had the sense, I guess, to say, I need to take a second here and take this in, because I don't know if everybody has that kind of mindset.
Well, I can't say I do all the time. Like I say, it's few and far between, and I'm glad that like you said, I'm glad I've thought about doing it a couple times for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So how did you get into racing?
Well, you talked about family a little bit ago. I'm sitting here in my office at home, and right up here on this shelf, I think I've got 9 or 10 pictures of my grandpa when he was in World War II, and when he got out of World War II in 47, they kicked him out of the Army. He was in Denver, and he became a Ford master mechanic. And so at that time, you could take a car that was doing the Pikes Peak hill climb, and you could take it to Indianapolis. So right over here, he's standing next to 3 cars that he built the engines on and was working on that did the Pikes Peak hill climb. And then at the same year, I believe it was 48 or 49, they were at Indianapolis. So he kind of started it way back in the 40s. And then they moved to Columbus, Ohio, at the end of it. Then my dad, his best friend in high school was Charlie Brown, who had the yellow 99 sprint car. It was his nephew. So my dad, they had a garage, Ford dealership. So he started helping them out. And that was when George Harbor was driving the car, and he did some motor work for him and went to the races every Saturday night. And so then when he got a little older into it was the early 80s, he bought a mini rod pulling tractor. So he did that all the way up until like 89, 90. And that man was wildly successful with a mini rod pulling tractor. We had trophies all over the Ford garage that we had. And then in 1990, the fall of 1990, he bought a 86 Oz car off of CJ Holly, who was a multi-time Atomic Speedway track champion. And at that time when he bought it, I think I was 10 or 11 years old. And I was like, holy cow, what is this thing? We went a few times, and I was like, man, that thing's awesome. And then I started working on it, and driving it never really interested me. I really liked working on them. So from that point on up until 96, we had a family car. We raced with the All-Stars a ton. And that was really cool because I was, when you're 16 years old and you're on a first name basis with Carl Kinzer and Davey Brown Jr. and Cooley, that is a lot of fun. And that was amazing so much. And, I was telling somebody a while ago, Jason Myers said this, I think it was on Open Red, when you learn how to work on race cars, and you learn how to work and what it takes to race. When you go into the real world, they have no idea what's coming, because the relentless work ethic you have is just nonstop, and you will be successful if you just keep that attitude to it. But anyways, off track a little bit, but from there, just kind of stayed in it. When we got rid of our car, did a lot of different things, helped different people along the way, and moved to Canton, so I wasn't as involved anymore. So yeah, that's kind of my interest into racing. Oh, and my dad works for Danny Smith now, so that kind of drug me back in a little bit. I used to joke, I used to go with those two, so that the average age of Danny Smith racing was under 50. Now, as I get closer to 50, I think I'm just doing well to keep them under 60.
It's funny that's funny you say that, but kind of going back to something you said about, I think it really applies to anything. Obviously we're all about dirt racing, right? But I think you could say racing in general. That work ethic. If you're working on the car, I think most of the drivers usually have a hand in that, right? But also, if you're working at the track, if you're helping like you're the race director, or you're running a track or a series or something like that. The work ethic and the dedication, because like you said, most folks like us are working Monday through Friday, right? And they're still doing what they can in their spare time to make sure that they can get to the track on the weekend, where they're spending pretty much every hour of every day and the weekend at the track. So I think that speaks for a lot of different things in racing.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said earlier, 2 or 3 races ago, I logged every hour so I could show Charlie. I was trying to get a bump from that 175 a week, which is fine. And I think the final total was like 43 hours I put in for Atomic. On top of I think that week I had a little bit of a longer week at my regular job, which that was in the high 40s as well. So like the only time I had off was when I finally woke up from getting home at 5 a.m. Which, I'm not I don't sleep a ton anyways, but I woke up at like 11 o'clock. So from 11 to like 9, that was the only time off I had during the entire week.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So on that note, what do you find is the most difficult thing when it comes to running a show at the track?
It's hard to pinpoint one that would be the most difficult. I think there's a lot of things that just pile up on you, but probably if I was going to rank them, probably the stress I put on myself. One of the things that drives me nuts is, when we have a 410 show, I know almost everybody in the pits. When we have a late model show, I don't know a lot of the late model people, so it's a little different. But, I know Rodney and Cole. I've known Rodney my whole life. I know those guys. So I want the show, I want the track, I want everything to be so perfect that, the smallest imperfections drive me nuts. Nobody else probably sees it. There's been times I've complained to Charlie about things that went on, and he's like, I didn't even know that happened. So if I didn't know it happened, the public didn't know it happened, and probably the racers didn't know it happened. I'm like, yeah, but I knew it happened. That's frustrating, but that's self-inflicted. Right now, I think the biggest challenge that every track is facing is social media. It's great when it's great, and it stinks when it stinks. Everybody now is a track prep king. They couldn't start a tractor if their life depended on it, but they know how much water should be on that track. I think that would probably be one of the most difficult things, is just the idea of you go to the track, you watch the races, you enjoy the racing, and some of those little things like, was the track a little dusty tonight? Well, it's a dirt track. Of course it was a little dusty tonight. Was the track rough tonight? Yeah, you have those nights. We've had them. We had 2 or 3 races in a row where the track was not what we wanted. But just the way people attack everything you do when you work, like just a minute ago, I had 90 plus hours between my regular job and Atomic. And then for the people to just be so vicious and so attacking on it, that is difficult. And it bleeds over to, you have to answer to sponsors. When people are just going on and on and on about how terrible this track is, or my hot dog wasn't hot, that bleeds over to a sponsor saying, what's going on? Tell me what's happening. Was it this bad? Right. And fortunately, we have a lot of great sponsors at Atomic that get racing, and they get that this is a dynamic thing. It's not something you show up for and everything is perfect. But yeah, I think just the empathy, so to speak, for racetracks is kind of out the window.
Yeah, people, I don't think it's everybody, but I think there are people out there that they want to attack a lot of things, and that's what they want to do, is they want to, I guess they kind of want to throw gas on the fire and see if it keeps going, right? Which I don't understand how that makes anything better for any of us. Certainly we all have opinions, right? And there may be something that occurs where people may speak their mind, but there's one thing I think with having an opinion about something, and another thing where you're just, like you said, like attacking something, and I don't agree with that part.
Yeah, and Charlie and I both, Charlie's probably the main driver of this. It's something I've learned, and I'm glad I did. Neither one of us care what somebody says if it's the truth. For our Lucas Oil show, yeah, that track was not what we wanted. So anybody that wanted to say the track was rough and terrible, you're 100% right. And we agreed with it. But then to just keep piling on and on and on, it's like, yeah, we know. Everybody knows. You're not telling anybody anything new. The track wasn't great. And it's unfortunate. But we did what we thought was best at the time. We learned something. If you'd have looked at the track the last two races we had, man, she was silky smooth, fast, and hardly any complaints to be had. But yeah, and you're right. It's not everybody, but it's the way the world works. Is we no longer the good things are outweighed by the bad. Unfortunate, but I think that's the way most of us are wired anymore. As you read that bad thing, it hurts, it sticks with you, and the only thing you can do is work to be better the next week, because you got another race coming. There's another green flag coming eventually, so you got to be ready for it.
Yeah, and the idea that a track, whatever track or series or whatever, would be like, you know what, we're gonna get people to pay money to come in and watch our track or watch our series, and we're gonna try to put on the worst show possible, is just absolutely ridiculous. I don't know why people would ever think that.
Yeah, I mean, that's not even a good business plan. It's not even a good thought. I mean,
but I mean, that's what with them, like people attacking just constantly, like you pointed out. Like, you think we wanted to make the track bad? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's almost like you want to ask them, do you think we woke up today and said, hey, we're going to make this sucker rubber down today just so we can get some attention? That's not the attention you're after. Yeah. So how has the 2025 season been for you guys there at Atomic?
Wet. I think we just completed our 9th race. And that's tough. The bills don't stop coming just because we get rained out. But the races we've had have been really good races. And I'll go back to it. I'll hammer it all night long. The Lucas race on July 4th, that was our toughest race that we had. The track was terrible. We had a lot of rain. Outside of that, we've had some really good races. The last race we had with the Ironman series and Chris Tilley, the top 3 were nose to tail, and that was Clint Keenan, Adam Stricker, and RJ Conley. Those guys were literally nose to tail for at least 26 or 27 laps. The top 6 were on the same straightaway almost the whole race. Fantastic race. The race before that, there's nothing we can do about that. Cole comes in and whoops everybody all the time. But if you looked behind Cole, second through I think seventh or eighth, that was some really, really good racing. So we've done well. The track itself has done really well this year. I mean, we've been fortunate to get all of our big shows in. So things have gone well. We'd really like to get more races in. And fortunately, we've got a pretty good schedule to finish up the year.
I think it depends on where you're at in Ohio this year because, I don't know, they don't run as many races as I think they should. But, for example, Lima Land.
Mm-hmm.
I was there the night it was raining and the feature was on the track, and they finished. I was blown away. But that they've had good weather up there is what I'm getting at. Like Eldora hasn't had a bunch of rainouts, right? And when you talk about, you guys having a lot of rainouts, that also makes me think of the USAC Midwest Thunder Midget Series because those guys have been on the struggle bus when it comes to getting their races in too. But you pointed out you've got some good races coming up. So what's left on the 2025 schedule for you guys?
Well, so the 13th, we're doing the Gladiator night. We've got a big sport mod race, a big steel block late model race, and a big sprint car race. I can't remember the exact dates, but the Fast Boss Series ends up with us. I think it's the second or third week in October.
October 4th is what I have for that.
Yeah, and then our big races are going to be to end up the year. The Night Stars come out. That's going to be a 2-day event. Late models and sprint cars on Friday. Probably have a support series in there. I'm just not sure which one it is. It'll either be modifieds or sport mods. It's $5,000 to win for both. That'll be with Chris Tilley, who does a great job with the late model series. I mean, his Ironman series is fantastic, and Chris is a super good dude. Then Saturday night, be back again. Late models and sprint cars, $15,000 to win a piece. And so that's going to be a big deal. Flo's really helping us out with that. Be a great night of racing, I think. And that's how we're going to close the year up. And sprinkled in there, we got a couple other races too. So,
yeah, that's a good way to wrap it up. And you've got September 13th, the Nights of Dirt with the Gladiator sprints, also steel block late models, sport mods, and as we mentioned, the Gladiator sprints. And we'll touch on that here in a little bit. September 20th is the Atomic Fall Brawl with the Valvoline American Late Model Ironman Series, modifieds and compacts, I believe. October 4th is the Fast Boss finale. You've got late models there as well. October 11th, your Night of Champions, and then October 24th and 25th is the night the stars come out. Really good way to wrap up the season.
Yeah, and we've struggled so much getting them in early in the year. It seemed like every single time we wanted to race, it rained, and every time we had a scheduled day off, it was 85 and sunny. So hoping that, so far, Mother Nature's blessed us with some racing here from the middle of July till now. We just need to get some rain here so we can get our pond filled back up. So I remember it was like 91 or 92. We had a bad drought in Ohio. And at that time it was KC, and man, they kept racing every week. And I'll never forget Todd Kane. Track could get, it would just be as slick as it could possibly be in heat races. Todd, I love it. I love this. And, I'm, 12, 13 years old, and I'm like, well, you guys can't even run wide open around here. This sucks. And now, working on the track, I'm like, yeah, let's get this thing slowed down to a 14-second lap. That's great racing right there.
Yeah. It's funny. So you mentioned Todd Kane, and he's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame there. I know some names came out today, some names still to be released because you guys are trying to reach out to them, but had a chance to talk to Todd, and man, he was a great conversation for sure.
Yeah, Todd and Marty and everybody over there, those are some great folks. Like I say, when we were racing there in the early 90s, Todd was a staple there, and he probably don't remember me being a little kid running around. too awful much, but those are the guys when I was growing up I sure did look up to, because they were always winning, they were always up front, and now when I talk to Todd, I sweat from him talking, because he is the most intense human being I have ever met. But I do like the guy. I love him, always have. I think he's a great dude, and I'm glad he's going to the Hall of Fame. It's well deserved.
Yeah. So you touched about the Gladiator Sprint Tour event. So what do you know more about the workings? I know they're reaching out to some other tracks and trying to get some other shows set up before the season runs out. So what else do you know about that series that you could share?
Yeah, so it's a little difficult south of Route 70. We don't have a ton of cars down there anymore. And I know a lot of the drivers that race Atomic a lot were talking to me about trying to put more races on at Atomic. And, with our purse structure with the sprint cars and the late models, we're at almost $30,000 if we race those two on a local night, and that's just not sustainable. So we obviously split them up. So it's real hard for us to add a bunch of races for one of those classes, because that means we're piling on a big purse. So I had done some talking around, trying to find some folks, Moeller and Skyline, that would just put on some 2,000 to win races, anything to get cars on track, because that's what our guys that were running Atomic a lot wanted. But living in Canton, that was a challenge. Aaron Fry and I talked a decent amount about it, and he was able to get it done. And the whole idea with Gladiator is to just get cars on track, Muskingum down, over into Moeller and over into Skyline, and get, 6 to 7 tracks that we can go race at on a Friday or Saturday night. I think the idea overall is to kind of make Atomic like the mainstay track, which is fine. We've done that before for other series. But the idea is just to get more races, less stress races, easier. What's going to happen. Things aren't going to spiral out of control. It's just, let's go have some fun racing. Everybody wants to do it. Everybody always talks about what it pays, what it doesn't pay. And I had so many guys tell me, 2,200 is fine, 25, 250 is fine, 3 and 3 is fine. They just want to get on the track. And that's what Aaron's trying to do. And we're behind that. We want to get more cars on the track. It's just we are limited as to what we can actually put on for everybody. And it stinks. But we're in a great position because we've always had a great late model fan base and a great sprint car fan base. We just can't. That's a tough draw to put both of them on the schedule for one night.
I think a couple questions come from it, and you may or may not have answers to this, but let me say first, I am always of the opinion that if we can get more tracks to open their gates, to have races that pay money, whatever that money may be, where you didn't have that initially, that's a good thing, right? You're opening the gates, therefore people can come in, people can buy tickets and concessions and all that, and the tracks can make their money, right? Then the guys can get their cars out of the trailer and they can get them on the track, and they can make some money too. They can race to get ready for whatever that next race is that they're looking forward to. So that's a positive. I think when I first heard about this, I wondered how many 410 sprint car series can Ohio support? Was the question I had. Do you think that we're still in a good spot, or do we feel like it's starting to get congested? Do you sense any of that?
Well, I think there does come a point where it gets a little oversaturated. However, when you look at the 20 or so guys that want to race more and they're asking for it, then that tells me, what the point of the Gladiator series is not being met. If we've got, like I say, 20 guys that are saying, we'd like to race 20 more times this year. Well, there's not 20 more races to be had. So I don't think it's going to oversaturate, because I don't think, Aaron, to my understanding, Aaron's going to want to do all of this and race direct everything. And that's what he should do. It's his series. I've told him I will do whatever I can to help him. But I don't think this is going to be something that he schedules a Gladiator race at Atomic and a fast race at Wayne County. I don't think that's going to happen. This will be, Atomic Saturday nights when we're not racing. Maybe it's at Skyline, or Friday nights at Moeller, or, I've been a big proponent to try to get Florence on board, because I think sprint cars in that area with Lawrenceburg right there, I think that would be fantastic. So that, having those tracks and knowing that guys want to race 20 to 25 more times, it's not being facilitated at the moment. So I don't think it's going to oversaturate. The problem is just going to be, we have to have everybody working together, which seems to start out with great intentions. And everybody says that. And then when you hang up the phone or you walk out the door, all the plans go out the window. So right now, I think if 2026 is similar to 2025, I don't see where that oversaturates the racing market.
Okay.
But I also, to one last thing on that, everybody gets real worried about car counts. I'm going to be honest, I don't worry about car counts, because we can have a fantastic race with 15 cars, and you can have a fantastic race with 45 cars. I understand the fans don't come to see 15 cars. They want to see, probably a B main, but at a certain point, we got to get cars on track. And I'm just of the opinion, you're going to have nights where you have 15 cars. You're going to have nights where you have 30. Let's be happy we're racing. Let's enjoy it as fans, as tracks, as racers. The alternative is not doing it. So let's try to enjoy it while we can.
Well, and the way you explain it, it makes sense. If you have 15 cars or you have 40 cars, you got sprint cars at a track that maybe didn't have sprint cars, or
right,
didn't have them regularly, right? So, yeah, I can't say that I disagree with that point. And something else that you kind of touched on, something that I was kind of wanting to touch on as well, and I think it applies to a bunch of different things in racing, and I think it's unfortunate. I guess the more I've gotten involved in kind of doing this stuff is the more you start hearing some things, right? So it seems like there's a lot of backdoor politics, backstabbing, if you will, that just makes it harder for everybody. Instead of whatever their end game was, that thinking it may make it easier for them, right? When in reality, it just makes everything more difficult. What's the solution to that? How do you get more people to work together in this area of racing?
Well, I mean, if I had that answer, I'd be a millionaire at this point. I think the biggest thing, what I've noticed is the tracks have worked better together at like in Ohio. And, I try to, when Charlie and I talk about stuff with tracks, we usually just say the sprint car track. So I don't include Eldora in anything, because it's like Knoxville. Anything that goes on there is an event. It's not that it's not for the local people, but that's big time stuff. And if you're going there, more power to you. But when we look at Sharon, Attica, Fremont, Wayne County, and Atomic, I kind of look at those as the big tracks that run sprint cars often. I think for the last couple of years, we've all worked together fairly well. There's going to come time, where Wayne County needs to run because they've got sponsors, and you're walking on one of our big races or a Fremont big race. The key is to try to mitigate and limit those. If you're running on every single one of our big shows, that's a problem. And everybody's done well to kind of miss that. Then, we, like with Skyline, you know, the Burdettes are great folks. We work with them a lot. We try to stay off of their races. I think when it comes to the track side, as long as we can all stay in communication and just stay off of big races, that helps tremendously. That's a starting point. The series stuff, that's a whole nother ball game. I think for me, one of the things I'm good at in life is I compartmentalize. So I don't have to like somebody to respect what they're doing. And as we go through, you know, any series that's racing, you don't have to like how they're necessarily doing everything, but you can respect what they're trying to accomplish. They have sponsors, they have drivers, they have what they need to do. So there again, maybe you have an all-star race that's scheduled somewhere, but you've got a local show you've got to run as well. That doesn't mean that we're necessarily fighting or butting heads or we're mad at each other. We've just both got things we have to try to accomplish on the season, and with all the rainouts, really squeezes you in. I think just the idea of everybody kind of pulling that rope relatively in the same direction doesn't have to be, you know, all the same. But if we can just get everybody working towards the greater good of 410 racing, late model racing, if we can just get everybody relatively on the same page, it's never going to work out perfect. There's too many personalities in all of this. You know, everybody hears Charlie on his lives. You know, he's his own animal, and everybody at Fremont. Rich is a great dude. He's his own. He's got to do what he's got to do. So as long as I just believe as long as we all keep focused on what's best for 410 racing, the racers, the tracks, the fans will follow. They always do. And that's not arrogant. I'm just, you know, the fans will come to the races. We just need to focus on everybody trying to help everybody along the way, not walk on the big shows and pull in the same direction. That's what I think needs to happen. But I may be completely wrong with that too. That's kind of how I feel of being on a guy that's worked on race cars and now is on the track side.
Yeah, no, and I mean, that makes sense to me. I understand, you know, weather's going to really throw, that's kind of really a big wrench that gets thrown into all of this, right? Because maybe at the beginning of the season, things are worked out. But like you said, we've got to do our best to open the gates so many times, right? Because we have bills, we being tracks have bills to pay. Yep. So I understand that, and I think will it ever be perfect? No, I don't think that's realistic. But like you pointed out, if we can get everybody at least trying to work together, I don't know. It just seems like the last couple of years, maybe that hasn't been the case. So I would certainly be a proponent of that because I want to see everybody succeed in this.
Yeah, and like I say, there's going to be some headbutting along the way. You know, the things that have happened in the last year or so, I'm not overly happy about it, but my opinion doesn't really matter all that much anyways. But like I say, if we can get over some of the humps and just keep pulling that rope in the same direction. I mean, you know, the tracks in Pennsylvania, I mean, some of those guys, I feel like they absolutely hate each other. I could be wrong, but man, they sure put off a vibe like they don't like each other at times. But it seems like they come together at times to do what the racers need, and the fans show up. And I think we need to follow down that path a little bit.
It makes me think of a quote. One of my best friends, Eric, his dad, who used to be a radio DJ, Spark Simon, said, "It's not show friends, it's show business."
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, very true.
All right, so moving on, what do you feel is different about trying to get fans to the track now compared to 10, 15 years ago?
Well, I think it's a lot of things, but the one thing I focus on pretty heavily is I look at it when I was a kid. when I was a kid, there was a lot of racing going on. We didn't have social media back then. We just did a thing at the Ross County Fair, touch a race car, and Charlie had his 410 there, and a bunch of our guys, I think Jamie Adams and Keith Baxter, and a lot of guys had their race cars there. I think one of the things we have made as a dirt racing as a whole is we've stubbed our toe big time on not getting a younger generation involved. When you come to Atomic Speedway, I see a lot of the faces I saw 30 years ago. I feel like at this point, we have to do a better job of bringing that 20 to 35-year-old and giving them a reason to be at Atomic Speedway or Fremont or Attica. That's my opinion. I think we have to do a better job of getting that younger crowd in there. And then, the easiest thing to go back to, and maybe the low hanging fruit of it, is COVID. COVID showed everybody there were other things to do in life. And God bless Dirt Vision and Flow. They kept racing afloat. But it showed people that I can racing for $150 or $300, and I can sit at home on Saturday night and have a $20 pizza with 6 of my buddies. And that is not the major issue, but it is a small issue because it only takes, if we have 20 races and one guy stays home all 20 races and we charge $20 to get in every night, that's easy math. We're losing out on money. So to me, getting the younger crowd in and giving our fans a better at-track experience, whether that's internet. I know one of the things we talked about, honestly, there's so many things going on, we probably fell off the map, was, my daughter's 24. I asked her a lot of things, like when she was in college and in sorority, I said, what is it going to take to get you guys to come to Atomic Speedway? And her big thing was, well, there's nothing to do. Well, there's racing, sweetheart. Nope, there's nothing for us to do when the cars go off the track. We don't want, as her age, we don't want to be there to have other things going on. So is that internet? Is that, like when you go to Cleveland, there's that big Cleveland sign. Everybody wants a picture with that. And it's in the most obscure place. It's little things like that I think will help drive some of that younger crowd into our tracks and buying tickets.
It's an interesting situation to be in because, like you said, you have to find that niche. You talked about the touch truck, which makes me think of the car show every year up at the old Pickle Mall. I can remember I grew up in Lima, and I can remember when I was a kid at the American Mall in Lima, they would have a race car show before the season started. I think that's an awesome thing, and just getting the kids to interact with the cars and the drivers, but that's a whole separate thing. Like you're talking about, like actually when you're at the track, you have to have other things to fill that void because everything is so now. Like constant information is what the younger generation has grown up with, and that's what they're accustomed to. So you've got to be able to provide that at the track, and trying to figure that out, I'm sure is an interesting proposition on your end.
Yeah, it's tough because we're old. What we want is just see cars racing. And like I say, it's just ideas, but every idea costs money. So yeah, we're going to have to spend it to make it. But I think the big thing is we've got to reach out to the younger generation. Like last year, I loaded Charlie's 410 up and I brought it up to our automotive class here in Canton South. And the look on those kids' faces, because I let them take the hood off, they took nozzles off, injection. I mean, I let them tear the car apart and put it back together. The look on their face was, for me, was fantastic. I think I got a few of them to the track even. And I didn't even promote Atomic other than Atomic was there. I told them all to go to Wayne County because it's 25 minutes from the high school. I hope a lot of them went.
Yeah. This is a whole nother conversation, but watch a lot of non-wing sprint car racing watch. I'm a sprint car guy, okay, but I watch a lot of non-wing sprint car racing. I try to watch a late model racing. I think both of them put on very good racing on the regular. But when you see a wing sprint car, I don't know, man. There's just something. There's just something about a wing sprint car. The look just it's awesome, and I don't know anybody that couldn't see one that wouldn't be like, man, what is that? If you're not familiar, you know what I mean? It's just that's cool. That was cool of you to do, and I'm sure it worked out. You know, you said you got some down to Atomic, and I bet you got some to Wayne County. So that's a great idea on your part. Would you have any advice for those looking to get into the sport, whether obviously not a driver? I mean, could you? Sure. And we talked about this before we started recording, how Anthony Gaskins decided he wanted to drive a 410 sprint car, and he just went ahead and did it. But outside of that, you know, whether it's at the track, something like you're doing, helping out at the track, or you're race directing, or whatever the case may be at the track, or you know, working on cars or anything like that, what would your advice to someone be?
Well, I think on the track side, you know, that is a difficult thing, because what most people see are a guy like our infield guy, Max Eichinger. Max is fantastic, but I think what a lot of people see with Max is a guy who's running around on a four-wheeler, and he's got a fire suit on and his headset, and he's all over the place, and that's what people want to come do. Unfortunately, Max has been at the track forever, and Max has built up such a relationship and trust just with me. When we have a wreck, he knows it, and he's on the move sometimes before I've even called a yellow. So what people need to understand is we can't bring you into that position, or a race director position, or a scoring position. Anybody can do is get involved, to be upfront and honest. This is what I want to do. I want to work track prep, or I want to work in the infield. Get in, start learning, build that rapport with the people at the track, and ask, can I move up? Can I do these different things? And, you know, we've got a guy, he just started with us. He really enjoys racing. He's working in our chute right now, and we're going to get him moved up and to doing some other things. You know, Jeff Hoagland, who has been the pit steward at Atomic, maybe since day one. I mean, Jeff has been there forever. Great guy, but you know, maybe it's time that we get Jeff a little bit of help to help him during the night, so that his nights are a little bit easier. And then that transitions to when Jeff finally says, hey, you know what, I think I want to watch tonight. We've got somebody that can help there. And so just the idea of understanding that just insurance purposes, it's not even feasible to bring somebody in new that doesn't know a ton about racing, and put them in like the flag stand. That's not safe and not smart. And then kind of the same thing if you want to get to working on cars, you know, go to the track. Don't be afraid to walk up to, you know, I'll just use my dad as an example. You know, if you see my dad at the track and he's sitting in the mule or whatever he's doing, and he probably got Diet Pepsi or Coke in his hand, walk up and say hi and be personable and ask him if you can help. You're not going to change nozzles. You know, you may get stuck throwing tires on top of the mule. But if you're there to help and you show up and you do what they ask, you're going to learn, and you never know what's going to happen. I mean, I was an 11-year-old kid working on my dad's car, and you know, I've spent, you know, a week at Stealth bending tube and welding, and I spent a week at Gertie's learning how to build engines. So you can get there and do those kind of things. Just be patient with it. And if you want to go on the road with the Outlaws or the All-Stars, don't be afraid to say anything, because those guys are desperate for people right now. So you absolutely never know what's going to happen, but just be patient with it and don't expect to start at the top.
Yeah, and it goes back to kind of something we talked about earlier, which is hard work and dedication, right? Like you got to start somewhere. Maybe you're wrapping hamburgers at
Yep.
first, but you got to start somewhere. But if you show the hard work and dedication, like you said, point out what you're looking to get to, it can happen. But you just got to put in the effort. Wrapping this up, any plans for 2026 at Atomic that you're able to talk about?
Well, I think right now, I know Charlie's usually beginning of August, he starts working on schedules. As far as I'm aware, all the major series, we don't have any issues with them. So I'm expecting they'll all be back next year. Dates we may not have the same dates. I really don't know. That's something that we always talk about. There's always, does this work for you? Does it not? Is there something we can try to do different? But to my knowledge, we'll be back fairly similar, at least one outlaw show. I don't know. They've kicked around a little bit about maybe getting the outlaw late models back this year since our race rained out. But I don't know if that's going to happen either. But I know we should have them back, and we should have Lucas back. And I know Rich Farmer I talked to him at Fremont vintage race night, and he's wanting to get things wrapped up so he can get Speed Week announced. What the lineup will be for that. So, I think 26 will look very similar to what 25 looked like.
Okay. And the night the stars come out now, is that like officially like end of the season 2-night staple? Have we got to that point?
Well, so I don't think that is necessarily what it is. I think that's going to, if we can get that back, and, last year it was a High Limit Lucas show. If High Limit and Lucas are willing to do that again, and they tell us they want it on February 3rd, then we'll peel the ice off the track and run it February 3rd. I think it's a great season ender. I really do. But, we'll kind of play that by ear and see how it unfolds.
Some kind of combination like that, the night stars come out, could be expected moving forward. It just may have different looks.
Yeah, this year it just didn't work out to get a series. The Outlaws or Lucas or High Limit involved. It just, we couldn't meet their schedules and they couldn't meet ours. But with Chris Tilley being involved, and those guys are fantastic. And then our local guys that I think, being that race, nobody else is really racing that weekend. Attica's already done. I think Fremont will be done here shortly. So, that's kind of the end of the year, right before Charlotte. That'd be great for, one of the guys to come win that race and then be able to go down and you paid for your trip to Charlotte.
Yeah, definitely a way to do it. So before we go, Dave, sponsors that you would like to thank?
Yeah, I think first off is the Herrnstein Auto Group. Bart has done a lot for Atomic Speedway. Got to thank them. Burlisle Oil, they're fantastic to us. They helped us put up a sign. And, actually with Burlisle, I don't know if everybody knows this. So we had no idea, but at the Outlaw Show, I looked around and there was probably at least 100 fuel jugs. We had no idea our alcohol was like $1.50 cheaper than anybody in the state. So we literally sold out of alcohol that night and had to go get like 4 more drums. So Burlisle makes that possible. And then Holdren Construction, they help us out so much. They're sponsoring our Sport Mod class, and they do so much for racing overall. Gator and everybody, they're great folks. And everybody that pitches in and helps us. Couldn't do it without them.
Awesome. Well, Dave Andrews, race director at Atomic Speedway, thanks for coming on.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, and hope to see everybody at the track.
Guys, this is Josh with the Dirt Court Jesters podcast, and we hope to see you at the track.